Putting all these books back away is going to suck. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is a little bit nuts. It's a bit name and shamey for myself, of course, and nobody else, in that I've taken all of the book ones in series that I want to read that I have not yet started off the shelves to show you today. And I have to do this in two parts. And because by off the shelves, I don't mean the shelves you can see behind me, I mean the shelves you can't actually see in the videos. So these two bookshelves here, not this one in the middle, are double stacked. A lot of these shelves are double stacked. So there's a lot of books you can't actually see on the forefront. There are also two other shelves out the front of the house in the lounge room, and one shelf beside me full of some beaten up paperbacks that you also can't see. So I went through all the shelves that you can't see. I was going to do everything from all the shelves, and then this whole row down here would just be bare because they're all book ones. And that's going to have to wait for another video because I honestly stopped counting at 40 from the shelves that you cannot see, and the books that you cannot see in the shelves behind me. Anyway, I've already rambled on for so long. So I'm going to name and shame all of the book ones that I own of series that I do want to read it someday before the end of my lifetime, and I'm hoping that you can tell me which ones to prioritize or which ones that you go, hey, that looks a bit interesting, I might give that a go myself. Now, some of these you would have seen on videos late before we moved from the old house in Forest Lake. You also may have seen some on recent videos where I talk about either some backlist authors that I want to read or some modern trad pub authors that I want to read. We're just going to run through them relatively quickly. Let's just start. Welcome to part one of this video. If you want to, go ahead and check out the description box down below for links to my social media and Discord, should you want to come along for the ride, all of that. We're going to jump into these books because I have to call my mother. Let's start off with Jim Butcher. So I did not like the Dresden Files. I basically DNF'd Dresden Files as a series because I find Dresden to be misogynistic and boring. So I didn't hate the writing though. So I do have the first books of, I think it's the Fairies of Calderon, or no, it's the Codex Alera by Jim Butcher, and also the Aeronauts Windlass, which is the Cinder Spires. Now, I hate the new covers. I quite like this cover, but we'll see. If I like either of these series, I've only got book ones just in case because I didn't really enjoy Dresden all that much. So they are the first book ones off the rank. I have no way to put these. There is just no space to put them. The next few are some older books that I've shown off sort of a couple of years ago at the end of my first year on BookTube. So this is going to be The Tide Lords by Jennifer Fallon. This is The Immortal Prince. So this is like an older book that I got from a book fair. Also in the same vein, we've got Sasha by Joel Shepherd. This series is called The Trial of Blood and Steel. We have Anthony Ryan. I have Bloodsong. I've had Bloodsong for a very long time. My father-in-law has read this whole trilogy. I've still not read it. And likewise with Brian McClellan's The Powder Mage trilogy. I, again, own all three. Father-in-law have read all three. I have not read this yet, but I have it. Another older series I've got is Eric Van Lustbader. This is The Ring of the Five Dragons, Volume 1 of the Pearl Saga. I've got the first three of these that I took from my friend Nathan's house when he was getting rid of all of his physical books to put them onto ebooks. I have The Magic of the Recluse. This one's a little bit beat up, but I have the first three in this series, which I believe is just a series of standalones. We're going to love that artwork there. One I recently talked about was Priory of the Orange Tree. This is, I can't remember what the series name is, but I have both book one and book two, and I haven't started them yet. We've got Catherine Kerr, The Dragon Mage, I believe it's a series. This is book one called The Red Wyvern, whatever you want to pronounce it. I have two books by this author. I haven't read anything from them yet, but I don't know, the cover, the premise, I was intrigued, so I picked that up at a secondhand bookshop. Likewise with Maggie Fury here. Now, I don't know if I've been burnt by Anne McCaffrey when it comes to some of these older fantasies, but I just like this. This is a cover pickup from a secondhand Fate. Look at this panther. Some magic happening there. Sunset. Love it. No idea what it's about, but I have it as a book one of a series that I would like to pick up one day. we are churning through these. Hopefully this video isn't too long. The next one is something that may surprise some people because this is a contemporary romance series, but all of the titles are puns. So I bought the first three. I thought I read a lot of these when I was in university. I don't know, maybe I'll pick them up someday. Also, they're nice and short. This is Meet Your Baker by Ellie Alexander. Look how cute. It's got a little skull. Anyway, I have the first three of these. They're nice and short. I don't know. Maybe if I get into romance again at some point in my life. I've had this since it came out. The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winters. I've got the second book. I've not picked it up. Now I've got a couple from Matthew Riley. Matthew Riley's. I really liked him when I was in uni, and I read a lot of his standalones. I have the books in the series. This is a Seven Ancient Wonders. I think this is Jack West, and this is Ice Station, which is another just action-heavy novel. Now, I've heard really good things about this particular series. It is, I cannot remember what this guy's name is. Anyway, I've heard really good things about Ice Station. This is a shorter series, and this one has 7 books in it. I own 6 of these books, so I will read them at some point. The desk is going to collapse if I keep putting books there, so I'm just going to... Alright, the next one, I don't know whether I'm going to enjoy it or not. I've heard very mixed things. For my particular tastes, it may work, but there are some themes in here, which I've heard from a good friend of mine, aren't super necessary, so we'll see how we go. And this is the Providence of Fire by Brian Staveley. I, again, have no idea what this series is called, but I picked up all 3 plus the 4th, like, carry-on from the series that I haven't read. Then we have Outlander, which was brought to me as a joke, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to read it at some point because I'm just curious. This one is technically Rachel's, but it is a series that I also want to read, and this is Notorious Sorcerer by Davina Evans, and this one is also Rachel's, but a series that I would like to read at some point in my life. That is The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, I think is how you pronounce it. I heard really good things about this series. I've heard mixed things about this series, but for my own tastes, I think that maybe I might enjoy it. We'll see. We will see. I have a couple from Tad Williams. Otherland is in here somewhere, but I recently picked up the Dragonbone chair right before going on my low buy year. I found this for like $8 in a secondhand bookshop. I love the older covers. I found this one and the second one, so I picked that up. Roger is probably going to reach his hand through the camera and tell me to read this one straight away, and that is Guilty Pleasures by Laurel K. Hamilton, the first of, 40 or 50 books in this series at this point. I promise I'll read it at some point. It is a book one that I have on my shelves, and that is urban fantasy turns into, like, paranormal romance. I don't know. A lot of things happening there. Speaking of fantasy romance, we have Patricia Briggs. I have book 1 and book 2 of this series, the first one being Bloodbound, I think. Don't hold me to that. It's either book 1 or book 2. I have them. They are here on the shelves. I'll read it at some point. I don't mind urban fantasy romance. Out of all, like, the subgenres with romance in it, urban fantasy romance doesn't irk me as much. Spirit Gate, I recently talked about, by Kate Elliott. I also have the Poppy War, which I bought when the Poppy War was being hyped, and I just didn't pick it up in that time frame. But again, I think it's one that I'll enjoy. I think I may go the audio route for that. I also recently talked about V.E. Schwab. I have Vicious, and I have A Darker Shade of Magic. I'm pretty sure I have the Current Duology. I don't know if there's another book in this one. I think there may be as well as a 4th one in this one. I'm not sure. Anyway, I have these series starters. I have The Girl Who Could Move Shit with Her Mind by Jackson Ford. I think this is the first one. Again, it's either the first or the second. I have both of them, so I believe this is the first. Don't quote me on that. It is a series of book 1s. I've got Chris Wooding, The Retribution Falls. This is the Tales of Kitty J, book 1, a series that I've been told to read on multiple occasions. I have book 1 and book 2 in this series that I would like to read at some point. Also, I have The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Shuri. Again, this is the Burning Kingdoms. The series name is on the side. I have book 1 and book 2. I've pre-ordered book 3 for potentially a 2025 read of the whole series of this book. I have a couple here from Mark Lawrence, who I've recently talked about, which is The Prince of Nothing and also Red Sister, which I have here. So I haven't read them, but I own the book 1s. And then I have a couple from N.K. Jemisin. I just need to go and find the second book. So I have the 5th season. I've got this whole trilogy, the Broken Earth trilogy, and I have The City We Became. I don't have the second book of this one. I'll be starting with this trilogy and going on from there. But book 1s of series that I want to read at some point in my life. Again, this desk is going to collapse if I don't move some books. So I'm gonna go. Gonna. I don't want this desk to collapse. It's very expensive. All right, we are sort of coming to the end here. I think we've done pretty well to get through as many books as we have in about 10 minutes. So let's keep going. I found Otherland by Tad Williams. So that is here. It's a shiny book. So shiny in that ring light. All right, I also have Terry Brooks, the Shannara Chronicles. I've got the first 3 of these. I do want to read them at some point. I just don't know when. I've recently talked about Bradley P. Beaulieu with the 12 Months of Shara Kai. Something about Shattered Sands. I don't know. We don't have time. I have no idea what the series is called at this moment. I've got Blood by Tony Sciletto. This is the Ashak Chronicles. Again, I don't know how this is pronounced. Mark really liked the series, so I picked up book 1. I found it for like $3 at a secondhand bookshop, and I randomly went into another secondhand bookshop and found book 2 here in Perth. So I have book 1 and book 2. They're very hard to find online, but if I can find book 3, I'll read it. I am interested in that series. We have a legend of the historical fantasy realm, and ironically, the book is called that. I have Legend by David Gemmell. I think I've got a couple in this series, but I have not read him yet. I know that if Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads ever watches this video, he'll be very upset by that. I have KJ Parker, which is the first book in the Fencer trilogy, Colors in the Steel. I found this for like a couple of dollars at a book fair. I've never read anything by KJ Parker. I probably will start with The Folding Knife if I ever go down that route. But this is a series I want to read at some point, and I am book 1. I can probably stop saying that at this point. The next one, again, is probably going to shock some people, but I've heard the writing in this and the story behind it is really good, even though I don't necessarily gravitate towards sexy fantasy, and that is going to be Kushiel's Dart. So I ended up buying the whole trilogy, or the first trilogy, of this series earlier this year. I found it for like $40 on eBay. I was like, you know what? I'm genuinely curious about this series. I've heard the world building and the magic is fantastic, even though it's not something I would normally gravitate towards. Let's give it a go. So I have the whole trilogy of that. Again, maybe a 2025 read. At this point, I'm doing nothing but reading in 2025. I've got a few from Larry Correa. I've got Monster Hunter International, which is probably where I will start with this particular order. It is a series I've been interested in a very long time before I started this channel. I have the first couple in this series, and I also have whatever this series is called. The House of Assassins is the book, though. Again, very shiny in that ring light, and I've got the first 2 of that one as well. The next one is going to have people, again, reaching through that camera, wanting me to read this series straight away. I've got the first 2 books, and I have checked my library. They have the rest of the ebooks, so I could potentially do this one next year, but we'll see. And that is The Ruin of Kings, or by Jen Lyons. What is this series called? I don't know, but it's a 5-book series. It starts with The Ruin of Kings. I hear very queer normative and something that may be up my alley. I like footnotes. I like big world building, so we'll see. We'll see. I have it, and I would like to read it at some point. We've got the last stack, my friends. We've got The Ancient Future by Tracy Harding. Sorry, I'm thinking of not this order, but anyway, I have the first book of this. This is either 3 or 4 books. I have them all. They are hidden behind these books over here. We have got The Gutter Prayer by Gareth Hanrahan, I think is how you pronounce it. These I haven't given to my father-in-law yet, but I probably will take to Brisbane because he really liked the Sword something, the most recent one. He hasn't read these, so I might take these for him to read because he is looking for some more books. Do Not Come For Me. I've not read this series yet. This is The Gentlemen Bastards by Scott Lynch, although this one's technically not finished. So if I'm waiting for it to be finished, maybe we'll talk about Game of Thrones, which will be in the next version of this video. Anyway, I haven't read The Lies of Locke Lamora or any others, but I have all 3. A series which is pretty high on my priority list for things to read off my shelves is this one. This is The Keepers by David Douglas, and I just appreciate that the books go down in size. Book 1, chunky. Book 2, book 3, way more manageable in terms of the story must wrap up. I don't know, but I appreciate that the books go down in size rather than up. The next one is an author I really need to get to. I own 5 of this man's books, and I've not read any of them. That's Ross Kingston. He's an Australian author. I love these covers. They are so beautiful. This is book 1, Awakening, and I had this one on e-copy as well. Now, this next book, I've technically started, and I started it when I was in high school. And this is A Shadow on the Glass by Ian Irvine. I have all 4 of this first series. I believe there's a continuation series. I think I have 2 books in the continuation series as well. These books were in Rachel's house when I first met her, and I was like, no one knows who Ian Irvin is. I really liked the first half of this book. I don't know why I never went back to it. Anyway, this is pretty much a priority, a given priority for me next year, or maybe even late this year, to get that first 4-book series under my radar. We'll see. We'll see when that happens. Then I've got Fiona McIntosh with Trinity. This is book 1, Betrayal. I've heard mixed things from a couple of people. Some people love it. Some of my friends love it. Some of my friends were like, boring. We'll see. We'll see. I have the trilogy, so we'll at least give... Hello. Just moved off camera. We'll at least give book 1 a go. And to close us out, we have Sarah Douglas, who has been hit and miss for me personally. I really liked the Troy game series. It was a series of 4 books. Loved it. I did not like the last one I read, which I unhauled, which I cannot remember. I started with Star something. But I do have The Crucible. This is book 3. I have book 1. Let's ignore that. Pretend that is a book 1. And the last one here, I have The Crooked Letter by Sean Williams, which I found again at a secondhand store. I loved the cover, so I picked it up, and I have no idea what it's about. That's it. That's round 1 of first books in series that I want to read that I haven't started. There's a few. I'm hoping, yet not convinced, that video 2 of this will be any less. But I'll count them up, and I'll actually put the number down at the bottom of the screen of the books that we saw today. Are there any series here that you think I should prioritize? Let me know. Give me your top 3, and we'll go from there. If you like the content, give one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.